Okay, we are talking about function notation today. So a function is like a machine. A number goes into the machine as your input, and then the machine performs some kind of operations, and then a number comes out of the machine, and that's your output. In function notation, the expression following f of x describes the operations the function machine will perform. So let's look at the function notation. So I'm going to zoom in on just that. So f parentheses x is read f of x. F is the name of the function. We have f of x, we have g of x, h of x. Those are the usual one, f, g, h. Sometimes there's other names, but usually we just use f for function. And then this tells you that x is your input. So whatever is here, that is your input. And then what's on the other side of the equal sign is the actual machine. You're going to plug in a number for x and then perform a machine, and that'll be your f of x. You could use f of x and y as the same. I could rewrite this as y equals 2x. F of x is the same as y. Do that. There we go. So your 2x is your actual function, but we are going to write it as f of x so that we can actually plug in a number for x. Because y is a function of x. So that's why you can say f of x is the same as y, because y is a function of x. Okay, let's go up here. Here is a function machine. So 3 is going to go in. So if we say that 3 is going in, that means that every place that you see an x, you're going to plug in a 3. So I'm going to get my just scribble tool and do a little 3 right here. Oh, no, that did not work. That was... Instead, I'm just going to do a parentheses 3 there instead of the parentheses, or instead of the scribble. So I'm going to replace x with 3 because it says 3 is my input. That's what is being put into the rule. So 3 of g of x, when we have x as 3, it's 3 times 3 minus 1. So what would be our output? What is 3 times 3 minus 1?
8.
8, yep. So 8 is what we have as our output. X is our 3, y is 8. Okay, the next page we are going to write on paper, or you can do it by typing it up. It's up to you. Because of the squared, we're probably going to have to write it. So on the next page in your journal, go ahead and write function notation slide 33. Go ahead and write the two functions down. So f of x is x squared plus 3. And then g of x is 3x minus 1. So it says find the following values. F of 3. So that means everywhere we see an x, we're going to plug in the 3. Before I just have you put it in your calculator, I want you to write it down. So anytime you have an x, you're going to input the number in for x, but keep it in parentheses. So this is x squared, so I'm going to put 3 in parentheses squared plus 3. If you want to put that in the calculator, that's fine. I just want to make sure that you put this down on your paper. So we can actually do that in our head. What is 3 squared? Plus 3 more? 12. Okay, then it says g of 3. So that means I'm going to use the g function, and I'm going to plug in a 3 for that. So 3 times 3 minus 1. Three times 3 minus 1. 8. Okay, so I'm going to let you do the left column. So go ahead and get started on that. Work out all of those, or the left problems. Or go ahead and do the whole slide. Let's see how you do. And we'll come back together and check your answers. Okay, so you should be about done with this slide. You probably have a few questions. So let's look. Here are a few of them. So g of 3 is 8, f of negative 2. Make sure you put this in parentheses. If you don't, then that'll change your answer. So that's why I said every time you're plugging it into the machine, keep it as a parentheses. Okay, so then that one is 7. G of 0, 3 times 0 minus 1, which is negative 1. F of 2 plus G of 1. That means you need to do F of 2 and G of 1 and then add them together. So F of 2 would be 2 times 2 is 4 plus 3, 7. Then G of 1 would be 3 times 1, which is 3, minus 1 is 2. So this would be 7 plus 2. Y'all check me.
Yeah.
Is 9? Okay, good. The next one, G of negative 1. So 3 times negative 1 is negative 3 minus 1, negative 4. F of G of 2. So that means I need to do G of 2 first. So that'd be 3 times 2 minus 1, which would be 6 minus 1 is 5. Then what I plug in next is, this said G of 2. So instead of writing G of 2 in there, I'm going to write 5 because that is what G of 2 is. So this will be x squared plus 3. So 5 squared plus 3. 25 plus 3. 28. Okay, G of f of 0. So that means I need to do f of 0 first. So f of 0 would be 0 squared plus 3, which is just 3. Then I'd plug in, instead of writing f of 0, I'd plug in 3 here for f of 0. So that'd be 3 times 3 minus 1. 3 times 3, 9 minus 1, f of y. So just like the other ones where we plug in a number, we're plugging in a variable though. So this is going to be y squared plus 3. It doesn't need the parentheses anymore unless it had a negative in there. That's when it would absolutely need it. So just y squared plus 3 can be our solution there. G of w would be just plug in a w for x. So 3 times w minus 1. Okay. And then the last one, what's that say? G of x equals, is that 20? Was the original problem?
Yeah.
So this means we are going to find x.
You have to do like G divided by.
So what you would do is you'd say, okay, g of x, I'm going to replace that with my function. 3x minus 1 equals 20. Because g of x is 3x minus 1. And it's supposed to equal 20. So now we need to find x. A lot of y'all were doing this in your head, which is perfectly fine. But whenever it gets a little harder, we're going to need to make sure we can do it this way also. So it'd be 3x equals 21. Divide by 3. So x equals 7. Okay, so you can take a picture and put this on your slide, or you can just type in the answers. Either way is fine with me. So I'm going to pause it before we move on to slide 34.
Wait, can you go back here?
Okay, so you should have your answers on here or a picture of your work. So let's go to slide 34. Find the range of the function for the given domain. So the domain is what values? X. So that means if they say domain is -1, 0, and 1, that means I'm plugging in those numbers for x. So I'm going to go ahead and write f of x and the domain on my paper in my composition book. Yes. Yeah, it is. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is a linear function. It's kind of like y equals mx plus b. So we have the function and we have the domain. Domain is our x values. So we could actually do a little bit of this. X and y, which remember f of x is your y. So that means I'm going to plug in each of these numbers in order to get my f of x. So I'm going to start with my x values being -1. And so for my y value, my f of x, I'm going to plug in -1.
Teachers, I'm sorry for this interruption, but any senior that is going
So that means I'm going to plug in the -1. So -5 times a -1 minus 3. This is how I'm going to organize my work in the table. And then we can use our calculator to do this. We can do it in our head, either way, whatever way you want to do it. As long as you write down what you're putting in your calculator, that is all the work I need to see. So that means that is 2. The next one is 0. So we're going to do -5 times 0 minus 3. Negative 5 times 0. Well, that's 0. And then minus 3 would be minus 3. And then 1, negative 5 times positive 1 minus 3. Negative 5 and negative 3 make negative 8. Yep. So that means that my range is 2, negative 3, negative 8, which I should really write them in least to greatest order. So I'm going to rewrite it. Negative 8, negative 3, and positive 2. Do your cute little braces. Are y'all getting the hang of that yet? No. Okay, let's do g of x now. G of x is x squared minus 2. Different function, it's going to have a different t-chart. X, y, which is our f of x. And says that our domain is going to be negative 4, negative 2, and positive 5. We want to find what the range is. So go ahead and plug those in. So it would say x squared, so negative 4 in parentheses squared minus 2. What happens whenever you square a negative number? Becomes positive, yeah. That's why it's important to put it in parentheses. Because if I don't put this in parentheses, it changes the answer. Because you are squaring the whole negative 4. If you don't put in parentheses, you're only squaring the 4, and the negative is just there. So make sure that you put it in parentheses. So it should be parentheses negative 4 squared minus 2. So that's 14. And then negative 2 squared minus 2. And 5 squared minus 2.
Wait, Miss Saucy, wouldn't the first one be 12? Because you. Oh, wait, never mind. You already did that.
Are you talking about this one?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah, 16 minus 2 is 14. And then 5 squared minus 2, 23. So then our range is going to be least to greatest order 2, 14, 23. Could we do this in the calculator? Okay, so I'm going to just remind y'all on how to do that in the calculator. So you go to y equals. Everybody do this with me. Some of you might have done it for the original problem. Did y'all do it for the original? Check your work maybe. So you go to y equals, you plug in the function, so negative 5x minus 3. And it says the domain is this, so we are going to hit second graph, which is your table. and go to those numbers that are x and y. Well, x is -1, y is 2. X is 0, y is -3. X is 1, y is -8. So then we could do the same thing for our g of x. So go back to y equals, clear that out, and now plug in x squared minus 2. And do your table again. And we're going to look at when x is -4, y is 14. When x is -2, y is 2. And then go to 5. When x is 5, y is 23. Okay, then the last part of this, it says find the domain given the range. So we have f of x equals -5x minus 3. And they're saying that the range is -23, -3, and +7. And we're asked to find the domain. So we need to do it the opposite way. Well, not really the opposite way, but this is -23, -3, and 7. So now you're finding what are the x values. We can use the calculator, but only if the x's are whole numbers, because whenever you plug it in, this isn't the right function, but whenever you plug it in, it uses the x values as whole numbers. So if any of the x values that match these are not whole numbers, then it wouldn't show up on your table. So we have -5x minus 3. You could do it by hand too. Yeah, you do -5x minus 3 equals -23. And then -5x minus 3 equals -3. -5x minus 3 equals 7. And you would solve each one of these to find your x value. So +3 divide by -5. Because if you do +3 to both sides, you get -20. Divide by -5. X equals +4. And we could check that in here. By going to your table and finding out where y is 23.
It's 4 to 0.
Do what? There it is, +4. So then you do the same thing here. So +3, +3. We get -5x. I didn't give myself much room to do this. Then divide by -5. X equals 0. So when y is -3, x is 0. So this would be +4. This would be 0. And then this one would be +3, +3. -5x equals 10. Divide by -5. X equals -2. And that is right. -2, 7. 7 was the y value we were looking for, so that's -2. Okay, so finish out this slide, and your assignment is on Delta Math. I believe it's only 10 problems dealing directly with this.
Did you ever get like weird on the computer? Like I'm talking about your